Good evening and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Jonty.
My name is Mark.
My name's Andy.
And my name's Az.
So we've done it in a slightly different order of the intros this time around. So Mark, do you want to explain why I've suddenly taken over?
I can't be the host tonight. I can only be a guest because my partner's been away for 4 days and she's coming back tonight right in the middle of the Scoutcast, and it would be a test of our relationship if I just carried on doing the Scoutcast when she walks through the door. I think I'd be doing the Scoutcast from some kind of hut in the middle of nowhere from this point on if I did that. So you've only got me for half an hour. And if my kids wake up, you got me for less than that. So let's try and make the most of it while I'm here. I'll try and chip in as much as I can. I'll stop talking now so we can crack on.
Well, on the show tonight. So this one, if we cast our mind back to last week we kind of got all of the bits from game week 27 out of the way. So this is looking forward to game week 28, but more importantly, it's game week 31, blank fixtures, double game weeks, when we're going to be using our chips. So it's a real kind of forward planning type episode, really. So we're a little confused, but we're going to hopefully unconfuse ourselves and hopefully unconfuse yourselves, if that is such a word.
I don't think it is, Jonty, but never mind. We haven't got time to dabble. Okay, let's crack on. We've got a community question there for Jonty. What's the first one? Let's start with. I mean, it's a huge subject, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The first one's on a series of questions on chips. So what I'll start doing is by just having a bit of a recap of what we know before. So we know that there's going to be 4 matches definitely in game week 31. Bournemouth against West Brom, Huddersfield against Palace, Stoke against Everton, Liverpool against Watford. We also know that Spurs against Newcastle could go ahead in the unlikely scenario that Tottenham lose to Rochdale in the FA Cup at Wembley. You never know, though. So we also know that game week 34 will likely to be a series of double game weeks for a number of teams, and most likely feature teams that miss out in game week 31. We know that teams that progress to the FA Cup finals, semi-finals, will miss game week 35. That will be another blank game week. And then in game week 37, if we can survive that far, there's going to be another double game week. So we're starting to get a picture of how we can plan and how to start using chips. And so we've got a few questions on this. So Mufasa, is the best strategy to load up now on game week 31 players? So he's looking at not using or using the free hit chip game week 31. That's a decision to make there. Is the plan to do that? Load up on game week 31 players, not use the free hit chip there. Then wild card some point in game week 32 or 33. Bench boost in double game week 34. Free hit chip in blank game week 35. And then triple captaincy chip in game week 37. That seems to be, there's a broad consensus amongst a number of fantasy managers, not all, that's the way forward. So he's asking about that. Neo Viper actually believes the game week 31 looks ideal time to use the chip. And old Ben Kenobi from Star Wars films wonders whether game week 38 may in fact be a better option for some kind of final push to increase the overall
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Well, so for some reason he thinks that you should definitely use a chip there in the biggest lottery game week ever since game week 1. So game week 1 and game week 38 are the game weeks where you have absolutely no clue what's going to happen. So my personal opinion is no to that one. But yeah, so what do you all think about? Have a look at what your general chip strategy is, and crucially, whether you think you're going to be using a free hit chip in game 31.
Shall I start then while I'm here? I think when we spoke about this before, I wasn't really prepared for it. I hadn't really started. I'd gone into like 5 or 6 games ago, just presuming I would play it in 31. And I think at the start of the season, we were like, well, as soon as the quarterfinals come around, that's when the free hit's going to be used. But it's only when I started looking at the combination with the bench boost and the wild card that I started believing that actually the right strategy was 35. And I think that's crucial. It's like, it's not so much about the impact of the free hit in that game week 35. It's the impact it will have on your planning for game week 34. And I still look at it now and I think, United, Chelsea, Spurs, Southampton are probably going to be, if you look at the bookies odds, the 4 to go through to the semi-finals and miss game week 35. So that effectively means if I'm going to bench boost in 34, I'm going to have to think about those 4 teams. Southampton, okay, rule them out. I'm not going to build many Southampton teams into my bench boost team squad, but Spurs and Chelsea and United, I definitely am. I'm probably going to have De Gea in goal, definitely going to have Kane, probably a Spurs midfielder, probably Hazard, definitely Alonso. I would have to then accept that I'm taking them into game week 35 and benching some of them and fielding 7 or 8 players. And look at the money I'd be benching So that would mean it'd be very difficult to, compensate for that. And I can't really. So I'm not going to sell Kane. I'm not going to sell Alonso because they're the kind of players I want for the run-in. So I just think what it gives me in 35 is that flexibility. Just go for 34, all guns blazing. It might not work, but we've seen the bench boost disappoint in the past. But that's what I want the freedom to do. But more to the point as well, immediately before we even look ahead of that, we might change our minds further down the line. I've got 6 players who are going at 31 already. I've got 5 transfers. If I wanted to, I could put 11 out. Looking at the teams I've got to choose from, I think 7 or 8 players is going to be enough. I think I'll probably go for 8 maximum, with the idea that I'm wildcarding in 32. So I just think if you got the wildcard, the bench boost, and the triple captain left, this strategy of playing it in 35 seems the most sensible option, particularly if you've already got 5 or 6 players active in game week 31, which I have. If you've only got 1 or 2 or 3, maybe it leans back the other way, but I just don't see it the way I'm set up and the chips that I've got left. So that's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah. So, Az, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, to echo Mark, I think you can get away with 7 or 8 players for the week, and I think whether you've got all your chips left or you've used them all, or you've still got them, I think really you want to get 3 Liverpool players. You want to make the decision on. I think Firmino and Salah is a given, with Salah captain. So that's that kind of decision made, and then you get either Mane or Van Dijk or Robertson or someone like that, and then who are you left with? You're left with players like Shaqiri, Walcott, Wilson, who could do quite well. You've got enough time now to choose those players and perhaps bring them in. The trouble is, and as we're going to talk about later, you bring in a player like Walcott. He's got 2 away games. Everton's away form is atrocious. You bring in Shaqiri. Now he's got really tough games. So ideally, you want to wait till a bit closer to 31 before you make those moves. I just don't think it's a good week to free hit, because I just don't think there's enough options in the team that I want to bring in. And if you can save it and get 7 or 8 players out, which you should be able to do because you've got time to make those moves leading up to the game week, then I think you should just save and play it when some of the bigger teams have got games and there's more players that you want.
Yeah. So I mean, Andy, how about you? Do you echo those views, or are you a little bit different?
I kind of echo the views for game week 31. I don't feel like I'm going to need it, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be in the same situation, like you guys have pointed out. And to be honest, I'm happy to take hits for this blank. The old, every hit is 2 points in a blank. I'm all over that. So I expect I'll feel close to 11, but I won't use my free hit to do it. Now, that's not necessarily because I absolutely want to use it in 35. I'm essentially not using it in 31 because I don't feel like I need it, not because I think it's better elsewhere. So I'm keeping my options open. So 35 for sure looks right now like the best option. But if it turns out that maybe only 2 fixtures get called off, which is a possibility, a slim one, but a possibility, then maybe I don't need it then. Then I can use it maybe 37, 38, because we get a wild card probably in 32 or 33. So that's 4 or 5 game weeks before game week 37. So who knows what might happen in between them. Obviously, the ideal is that we set up for the rest of the season from a wild card, but anything can happen, especially the end of the season when top 4 starts getting locked up, the league gets locked up, who's in Europe, who's not. So I'm kind of leaving my options open rather than absolutely saying I'm using it in 35, but for sure I can't really see a good reason for 31. Like I said, your 3 Liverpool is like almost a must-have, and then it gets to be slim pickings there. I mean, I already know now, I can already see myself taking a hit to bring in a Huddersfield defender, but I actually don't think that's a necessity. But it's something I'll do. So, yeah, I just don't think I need it for 31.
I think the key as well, though, Andy, is we will know the semi-final lineup before we wildcard and going at 32, because the quarterfinals would have been played by then.
Yeah, true.
We will know who the teams are, and we will know how many blanks there are at the point we choose to wildcard. And if it looks like 35 is only 2 matches, we can change our plans, because that's the window where we're playing the wildcard. So it seems to fit so perfectly into that plan, and the fact we've got the international break to play the wild card in, and the fact we can carry a transfer over in 33, which gives us 2 in 34, which gives us a bit more time to react to information for the double game week for the bench boost. I looked at it and just thought it's almost a perfect scenario. Now, it might not unfold like that, but it does look a sound argument for those reasons as well.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not disagreeing. Like, I don't think 31's a good time to use it now, the way it's fallen. I'm just saying I haven't 100% penciled in 35 just in case something happens. But you're right. If we'll know, I think we know before game week 32, don't we? Straight after 31 finishes. So yeah, we can plan ahead. I'm just saying if it doesn't work out that we need to use it in 35, then you could use it later as well. I think you can keep your options open with it.
I think what we can't say is like how effective is the bench boost going to be? If you've got the free hit, does it make it more effective? On paper, it should do because you can just recruit regardless. You don't have to care what happens in 35. Whereas if you don't have the free hit, you've got to look at your bench boost of 34 and be a bit more tempered with who you go with. You've got to combine it. You've got to mix the teams up a lot more. Or you've got fewer options really you can go with. You can't go from, you couldn't get 3 Spurs players if you know you're carrying those 3 players into a blank. You'd have to probably just get 1 or 2, and one of them's going to be Kane. So it's that extra freedom which should give managers with the free hit in 35 the advantage in the bench boost. But this is all dependent on having the bench boost as well, of course.
One thing I'm quite conscious of is the longer we wait with these chips, the more things could already be decided. So if you're using free hit and bench boost and stuff in 36, 37, 38, the league's probably already decided. A City going to be fielding their strongest team. The top 4 could even be decided. You don't know how things are going to pan out, and you're going to be left with teams who are kind of battling relegation, or maybe Liverpool and Chelsea who are battling for 4th place, and suddenly your bench boost is hard to use because some of your players might not play. Your free hit's hard to get right because you want to load up on your starting 11 and have cheap bench players, and then you might miss out. So in some ways, kind of bringing the chips forward and using them sooner rather than later might actually be a good strategy.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is very similar to the way you all are as well. I mean, I look at game week 31, and let's be honest, most of the teams are absolutely awful. and it's all about Liverpool. I mean, it's mainly about Captain Salah. So you got Captain Salah in, you got some other bloke. So it's how many other blokes you get in, and most of those will be rubbish. And you don't want them, and then you're going to want to wild card them all out. But then I look at game week 35. So obviously game week 31 doesn't look appealing for a free hit chip. I look at game week 35. There's many more teams playing, many more heavy hitters playing, premium players to choose from, who I might not necessarily want for the double game week or for the remaining few games. And so that appeals to me much more. The likes, for example, Arsenal. For example, I might not want Arsenal players around that time. I might do, but I might not. But then suddenly, I could get them in, and I could really stock up on them because they're at home to West Ham, and that's a really good fixture. So that gives you much more freedom, and I like that with freedom as well. But we've also had some questions really about advice for those that are low on chips, or those that have spent chips, maybe their second wild card free hit chip, and this is what I wanted to come to Az about, because he's used his triple captaincy. So for most of us who are following this plan that Mufasa was outlining, we're earmarking game week 37 for our triple captainship. Now, Az is in the position, which is actually potentially a quite good position, in that he could put his free hit chip there. So I was just going to ask you, as someone who's already used a chip, that particular chip, would you consider the free hit chip in game week 37 perhaps, or does that hurt your brain too much?
I hadn't considered it.
You have now.
So I have now. Yeah, I mean, I think with not having the chip, I do kind of want to, kind of limit the damage of the other people that might have it. But as I just said, though, I just think leaving the free hit to 37 is too big a risk. And actually, I think the triple captain chip is potentially perfect for that week, because you can stick it on a player who is playing for something, and you have a good degree of certainty that's going to play. So Salah might be a good example if they're fine for the top 4 or someone like that. So 37 seems a good week to use that chip, I'd say. I'm not considering the free hit at the moment. I hadn't considered it, so I don't think I'd be going down that route.
Okay. Some of the sorry, Mark. Yeah.
I think that's important. About the reason why the triple captain is more effective that stage in the season is you've only got to get one decision right, and that is one player motivated and likely to score points. Whereas if you bench boost or you free hit, you've suddenly got to pick a squad and getting all of those decisions right, which you kind of like with a bench boost, you definitely want to get as many right as possible. With a free hit, you want to get as many right as possible. You're doing it at a difficult time.
And one of the things that we are certain about that time as well is the Golden Boot. Now there'll be records to be getting, and so you're hoping. So one thing we might find could be Salah against Kane against someone else, Aguero perhaps, looking to get that Golden Boot by then. And so it could be, as we saw there was a huge motivation for Lukaku as well, Sanchez and Kane, and they just went for it for the goals. And and we've seen that in previous seasons with Drogba as well. So I think that's good. But we've had a few the questions about Toblerone 52, Pranav Santhos, and Sesk's old mullet amongst those without chips as well. So I just had a quick look at things like, so if you don't have your second wild card or your free hit chip, basically you've got to look at it. You're at a disadvantage. You've got to hold your hands up and say to yourselves, we're at a disadvantage, but how are we going to kind of make the best of it, or maybe turn it into advantage? So if you haven't got it, you've got to look at the season as you normally would. You've got to forget all the chat that we're talking about, and you've got to look at it in fixture blocks. And you've got to invest in teams that will have a double, and you've got to look in advance. So you've got to really plan in advance for this. So in terms of fixture blocks, if I was doing it, I looked at it, and how would I do it? I'd probably look at it from now until game week 31, and I'd be looking to get some good players who are playing in game week 31. There's not that many. So you'd be looking at Liverpool at a push, a bit of Everton, a bit of Bournemouth perhaps for your cheap players. And that's a nice fixture block there. But also go for Leicester and Tottenham as well. They have great fixtures going up to game week 31, even though both of those potentially not playing game week 31. And then you start looking game week 32 onwards to the end of the season. And then you have a look at the fixture block there. And you're looking at Arsenal. You're going to need Arsenal, and they've got a double. You're going to want Liverpool as well. So don't ditch Salah. And Leicester, good fixtures, a double. And then Burnley and Palace are good for cheapies. Spurs are obviously good, but they've got good fixtures as well. And we hope a double as well. But ones to avoid: Brighton, Southampton, West Ham, Stoke, West Brom. So if you're thinking in advance from game 32 onwards, if you've got, like I've got Duffy, for example, if you've got Southampton players struggling around, even a bit of West Ham, Stoke, I've got a couple of Stoke players, you're going to want to start offloading them, really. So you need to be thinking in advance. So good luck if you haven't got your chips, but you could get around it, and you might even do better. Who knows?
Yeah, I've looked at this as well, and I think it's about setting your ambitions for 31, getting a mix of players that you know are going to have double game weeks as well in 34, as well as game week 31. Then after 31, we're going to know the semi-final lineup. So you can start to plan for the double game weeks 34 and 37. But of course, you've got to, if you haven't got a free hit, you've got to look at the 35 situation as well. And you mentioned Arsenal, they've got a double in 34 and they play in 35. So they're a powerful team who could get you, big score in 34, and then they're there in 35 as well. So at the moment, they're investable for you if you don't have the free hit or the wild card. But you've got to be methodical with your transfers, and you've got to do it stage by stage. It's very tricky, but you're right. I've said before in a previous ScoutCast, we talk up the chips, and we're talking tonight about our plans, but I still am skeptical about how successful the bench boost is going to be, the triple captain is going to be, how effective the free hit, are we going to miss targets when we do play it? There's so much that people with chips have got to get right to really exploit them. It's not the end of the day if you've played one or two. Certainly, I don't think it's got anything to worry about. We could all misfire with the triple captain, and he'd be better off. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom if you haven't got your chips. Not having a wild card is tricky. I think that we know that's the most powerful, and that is a blow. But I think everything else you can get around.
Yeah, that's what. When I was looking at this, the answers to this, putting myself in that position, actually, part of me was slightly envious in a weird way, because it's actually doing my head in, all these chips. Yeah. And it was actually quite a little bit, so you've got to plan it a bit, but it's quite simple. You just look, right, these teams are good up to 31. I'll just look at that as a block. And then onwards, I'll look at these teams as a block. And it's actually quite, especially when you look at Arsenal's fixtures, absolutely superb running they've got. So, game week 35, got West Ham at home. They've got Manchester United away. Okay, that's bad. But then Burnley at home, then Huddersfield away. That's a really nice. And we've seen what Arsenal can do when they're on form. They can really hammer teams, and it comes at you as a surprise as well. And those who aren't messing around with chips are going to start loading up with Arsenal. They could really steal a march on that slot. Yeah,
I've got to admit, it has been occupying so much of my thoughts at the moment. Andy, you must have done loads on this as well recently. It would almost be a relief just not to have one or two of these chips, so we haven't got to piece all this together, wouldn't it? But I mean, are there tips that you can come up with for people who are just going into this without the free hit, without the wild card? I think the wild card is the big one, isn't it?
Yeah, the wild card's definitely the biggest one. I think one thing to do is try and not focus on what everyone else has got that you don't, because I know there'll be people sitting there listening to us say, well, I'm just going to not do anything until 31, then I'll just wild card, it won't matter. I think you just got to plan differently, though. So, like, for example, this week, I'm considering not getting any blank players and getting Eriksen and Mahrez. Whereas if I didn't have the wild card, I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably look at getting one of those two, plus Walcott, because I think Walcott's okay fixtures. Yes, they're away. I think he's someone I wouldn't mind getting in right now. But yeah, I think you still just got to do as much planning as anyone else. You just got to do it in a different way. You've got to think probably a bit further ahead, because like Johnny says, I'm literally looking up to game week 31 and not worrying about anything after that, because I'll just use my wild card. So yeah, I think you just got to plan ahead. Like you said, Arsenal look pretty good. Just obviously remember as well, in the blanks you can bench 4 players. So you probably don't want to triple up on Arsenal because they're going to blank. But if you could fit one player in somewhere, then they can be benched in game week 31, and then you've got them for their good fixtures after that. So you just got to do more planning. I mean, you're saying it can be a bit annoying to have all these chips. I absolutely think the opposite. I think it's brilliant. I don't have to do much thinking. Look at the next block of 3, and then take a load of hits, get my team full of duds that I won't want, and then I'll just wildcard them out.
I think the annoying thing is, like, every day I go on the site, or every day I speak to somebody else and they go, yeah, but I'm thinking of doing this, and I'll look at what they've presented and go, actually, that's quite good. And then you start doubting it, and then it start, there's I'm committed to my plan, but every now and then I waver because I read a really nice theory here or another idea here. There's so much we can do with it.
It's like that's why I'm not fully committing to game week 35. I'm sure that's probably what I'll do, because it seems the most logical. But I can see some merit in the people saying 37 and 38 for the free hit. Obviously, it's difficult to nail those teams, but we've seen people do that in the last game week before. They see that the league's wrapped up and that someone's going to come in and play a game, or a manager says that X is going to play in this game at the end of the season. They get them in. They're a differential. We've seen Walcott, Giroud in the past. So I can see the appeal for that. I mean, I don't see how you suddenly get an increase in ranking 38 versus not using it in a different week. I mean, that depends whether you nail it or not. That's the same every week. I can see the appeal to that. Yeah, that's why I want to leave kind of options open.
I mean, Az, do you feel you're going to miss out with this triple captain? Or, I mean, that's just one chip down. But I think that one is disposable, really, in this situation. I think suddenly the bench boost and the wild card are more important right now.
I think the worst part of it is looking back how few points I got with it. And you've always got that kind of anxiety cloud over you that, even if you just got lucky and you just put it on someone, you could, my rivals could end up getting, 15, 20 points probably would be a really good result for that chip. So, I mean, it's not too bad. The worst part is 15, 20 points, I think. Well, not 15, but, something around that. Yeah, I'm not too worried. I think this period is quite stressful as well, because I think as the hardcore players, this is the time when we're expected to really push on and do really well. And actually, I can just imagine, like, people I work with just looking at the fixture list and getting in like Eriksen and Ali and Mahrez and not thinking about blank game weeks and double game weeks and stuff. And then they just all go absolutely crazy over the next 3 weeks. And suddenly they've gained 40, 50 points on us. And then we're fielding players like Choupo-Moting and Jay Rodriguez, and then they get like 2 points, and then suddenly it's not looking as good. So I do feel a bit stressed, and especially now, I think every transfer is so important that we use our free transfers to bring in like the right players. And I think if you haven't got 3 Liverpool players, then it's an easy one, particularly this week because they've got 2 really good games and then no blank. So if you haven't got Firmino, or if you haven't got Van Dijk or someone like that, or Mane, then you can use a transfer this week, and it's quite an easy decision. But beyond this week, I think then it starts getting quite tough to decide what to do. So yeah, quite stressful.
I think we do it ourselves, don't we? This very podcast, we're creating this pressure on ourselves and building this up. And I said this weeks ago, we build it up, and there's this big expectation that it's going to deliver this period for us. And if it doesn't, we'll look at ourselves and go, oh, what went wrong there? So we've got to get ourselves to blame in a way, Jonty, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the way to look at it is in stages, really. So one of the big stages is looking ahead to game week 31, because we've got an immediate, are we going to free hit then? Are we not going to? And if we're not going to, we need to start planning transfers around that. So we've got a few questions on that. This one I quite like. It's nice and simple from Hot Dogs for Tea. What is the optimum Game Week 31 free hit chips? That's a chance for us to come up with our kind of essentials or best 11. Then and TLF particularly wants to know about which Liverpool players we're getting. Same with Anathalo and Mike S. If going into Game Week 31 short, which position is it best to do this for? So, for example, perhaps going in there with just one defender, two defenders. And Dan LFC, he's looking at Everton, so he's looking at Walcott or Sigurdsson. So Sigurdsson did really well in the last game week, and Walcott didn't. So I can see why he's thinking that as well. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, I've got my signal that my partner is outside, so I've got 30 seconds. So I'm quickly going to say, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Salah as my captain, obviously. I'm going to go Mane rather than Firmino as a differential, Van Dijk at the back. And I don't know when I'm going to do that, but Van Dijk will come in this week, and Mane probably before 31. And then, I've got Shaqiri, I'm going to get Walcott, I've got Pickford. I think I'm going to go about 8 players. And I'm happy with that. Wilson will probably come in, and maybe Nias as well if I don't have Firmino. So that is basically the nucleus of what I'm going with. I don't think I'm going to go beyond that, and I think I'm going to be okay with that. I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that, unless there's injuries that changes something. So handy that Bournemouth dropped in, it gives me Daniels I've already got, so that was convenient. So I think that's going to be my nucleus of the Game Week 31 team. And with that, I better go for tonight.
Oh, yeah. On that bombshell.
Sorry about the shortness of my appearance, but I'll be back next week, obviously when things are a bit more convenient for all. Night all.
See ya.
Cheers, bye. So, Andy, what do you think?
I really wish. I'm really sad that he didn't end it with "It's a good night from me."
Oh, right.
Before he went on.
That fooled everyone. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on Game Week 31?
Yeah, I mean, when I tried to actually type out I've got some notes. I typed out like an Optimum 11, and when I did that made me realize I don't need to use the free hit because it's really slim picking. So for players I've already got, we've all said it already, Salah and Firmino absolutely, and then one other Liverpool. Mane interests me because I think that's more exciting to get him in. The only problem is I think for some teams like mine, it's actually quite tough to get him in as well as everyone else because it would mean I have to take out someone like Sterling, which I don't really want to do. And I want Eriksen and Mahrez for their block of 3. So I don't really have another slot to get him in. I'd have to get him in at the end, and that would probably involve more transfers. So for me, I'm probably going to default to a defender instead, which will be Van Dijk. I think him and Robertson are pretty good. If you haven't got the money for Van Dijk, then Robertson's a good option. But when I watch Van Dijk eye test, I just feel like there's a goal coming soon. I don't know what the stats are. I don't know if that backs it up. But yeah, just watching him, he's always on the end of the ball on a corner. I just think we've seen him before scoring goals for Southampton. So he's definitely in for me. And then after that, it gets a bit ugly, really. I mean, Wilson up front, I quite like. I think he's got a good fixture this week and in the double and in the blank, and they're okay in between. I think he could do okay. One player I picked out, really, maybe like someone like Van Arnold, which I know is a bit out there, but I just think in a blank where you don't think much is going to go right anyway, someone like him maybe could pop up. But otherwise, it's just all the obvious players that like Walcott, Sigurdsson, Shaqiri, really. Okay. It's defence that doesn't interest me all that much, to be honest.
And what about you, Az?
Yeah, I mean, I think defence-wise, you can just kind of not really worry too much about it. I think Van Dijk personally is a great option going forward because I can see a couple of clean sheets for Liverpool. I can see him maybe getting a goal. He's just such a threat, and teams struggle to deal with him when he's in the box. So for me, he's my #1 transfer target this week. And it'd be good to bring him in. But yeah, like Andy said, I did it in a slightly different way. I did a kind of a tier listing of players I think are essential, and really it's Salah and Firmino, and then another Liverpool player, either Mane or Van Dijk, I think. And then after that, it's players you can probably do with that. I think Shaqiri's probably the one for that blank who I'd really want, just because of Everton's away form, and his form at the moment is really strong. So he's a player that I'm looking to bring in. Walcott and Sigurdsson, if you're looking for someone a bit more risky potentially, who not many people have, but he's on set pieces and corners and potentially penalties as well. So I think he could be a really good pick. Walcott's got a good eye for goal, and and he had a good game despite not getting any fantasy returns the other week. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it, isn't it? There's not that much. There's not that much going on in
No, I mean, I came to a very similar conclusion, but what I looked at is defence and attack stats last 4, really. And that's obviously going to change as we get nearer to game week 31. But I looked at goals conceded in the last 4, and Liverpool and Stoke have got the best defence according to that. Watford and Bournemouth are kind of middling. So I'll be looking at a Liverpool. So I've got a Stoke defender already. I'll be looking to get a Liverpool one, Watford and Bournemouth maybe, and then Everton, Huddersfield, Crystal Palace, West Brom. Their defence is awful. So if you're getting one of them in, be aware they're awful. So in terms of attack, goals scored last 4. Well, as you would imagine, Liverpool are top there, but they're being matched by Everton and Bournemouth. So I'd be looking at a Bournemouth attack somewhere. So something like Wilson or one of their midfielders. And whilst Everton are pants at the back, they're actually quite good at the top. So they've scored there. So I'll be looking at a Walcott or a Sigurdsson, I think. And then you move down the list, and West Brom at the bottom. So I'm not looking at a West Brom attacker. Don't think anyone should be. Watford, Huddersfield, Stoke, Palace. They've scored 4 goals in the last 4. Okay, not great. So that's not something I particularly want to be going handing out a ticker tape parade to welcome them in. So ideally, I was looking at. I basically had Hennessy as my goalkeeper to get if I was to get a goalkeeper, but I've just found out today that he could potentially be injured. We don't know the full details. He could potentially have a very serious injury and be out. In which case, all those lovely research I did about his 17 saves in the last 4 and stuff, it's all gone to pot. And I actually looking to go into this without a goalkeeper because I don't like the look of any of them, to be honest. Van Dijk in defence, yes. Bauer, I think, is okay. Dawson, possibly, if you're minded to think there could be a goal threat. But to be honest, I only reckon Van Dijk's probably the only one that's worth getting.
I was going to say, if you were going to free hit, I don't think this is a players you bring in if you were just making normal transfers. But for free hit, depending on what their injury status is at the time, I would maybe take a punt on someone like Coleman or Baines for Everton, just for old time's sake, maybe. But
this is it. This is one of the reasons we have all decided we're not going to free hit there, because we're looking at these options here and we're thinking, I don't want to be spending a chip on this lot. I don't even want to spend a transfer on them. So, but yeah, midfield, Salah, Walcott or Sigurdsson, Milivojevic, I think, is good because he's on penalties and he keeps getting them. And Shaqiri, obviously. But other than that, there's not really any others. Maybe a Bournemouth mid. And then Firmino, I think, is great. And I can understand the Mane thing. So I think if you're not getting Firmino, get Mane, definitely.
It's interesting how they can change so quickly. I mean, after that Chelsea game, everyone's talking about, Doucouré and talking about Deulofeu and players like that. And then suddenly they have a bad week last week and then no one's mentioned them again. So we've still got a few weeks, so hopefully some more players will kind of emerge.
What it is, aside from Salah and a few others, it's basically a collection of all our Fantasy Island risks all playing in one game week. So you've got to hope they're all going to do something, as we do every week with our Fantasy Island risks, and more often than not they don't. But yeah, Wilson I'm looking at, but I heard that Defoe is returning to training. I don't know how far off he is from first team action, but I would imagine possibly by game week 31 he could be. So that's a bit of a worry. And then, as you said, there's final players. So Benteke is another one of these kind of nostalgia-y type. What the hell? He hasn't really got any stats to back him up. Mounier at Huddersfield, similar. You've got, and it's pretty slim pickings really. But yeah, I just wanted to one final point on these make is that. Andy mentioned about Van Dijk. Has he got goal threat? Is a goal coming? Yes. Last 4 game weeks, he's had 5 goal attempts. So that's the same as Jack Stevens, who scored twice, Monreal, who scored twice, and Moses, who scored twice. So he's the only one of this kind. And also Koscielny has had 3 goal attempts, scored twice. So him and Ben Mee are the ones with the underlying stats that haven't yet to score. But all the other ones who are matching them for these underlying stats have all scored. So that does suggest that Van Dijk will score. I'm hesitant to say it would also suggest Ben Mee will score, because Ben Mee, like Duffy's goal, may never, ever come. But I think Van Dijk's will. But yeah, I don't know if any of you had any further thoughts really about game 31.
Yeah, a question for you. I can't remember if you both said it. Az definitely did and Mark did as well, saying that you'd be happy kind of going in with 8-9 players. But my question is, if you're going to use the wildcard straight afterwards, and if we subscribe to it's only 2-point hit for bringing a player in, would you not go full 11, even if it's a risk on someone like Moy or Benteke? If you don't have to take someone out that you're going to lose loads of value on, would you not just take the hit for the blank, and then you're going to wildcard them out anyway? So So would you not, for me, for 2 points a player, I'd go 3 or 4 players in, honestly. And
I do subscribe to that. It's only a 2-point hit rule, and I do like that. But I think this time around the quality of the teams is so poor that I don't even think they're worth the minimal risk of that, which is quite sad, really. Big apologies to all of these wonderful players at Everton and such like, but I just don't really like any of them, really. But also, as we'll come to, perhaps there's other players we should be investing in who don't have a blank. But yeah, did you have any final thoughts on that about the old it's only a 2-point hit rule?
I mean, I like it, and it worked for Andy last year, and it was a kind of a thing that I'd never really sort of considered before in that way. I just feel like you want to be using those hits on players from decent teams, and I just don't want to use even for 2 points to bring in like Jay Rodriguez or someone. It just doesn't appeal to me. I don't know. I can't see. There's no players that I can see in that game week going absolutely mad and getting those points. Whereas you can.
Yeah, well, no, I don't know about going mad, but I can already see myself now. Come to 31, I've only got 10 players. I've got this rubbish Kane who's not going to play, and I've got the chance to get Benteke for just 2 points against Huddersfield.
It's about team value, though, isn't it? Like, I suppose you can't really be losing like Kane and Sterling and players who then you're going to want back.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, Salah you'd want because he's got the game, but Kane and Sterling and other players. But I mean, I'm looking at my team now, and actually, there's not that many players that I probably wouldn't wildcard out. So it is an option. I think if there was a player in my team who I didn't want in the wildcard, then I would definitely consider it. It's just who the hell would you get?
So I mean, following on from Game Week 31, we've got some questions here about for people who see Game Week 31 as a bit of a trap, and they think we should be looking at current fixtures and just forgetting about this blank. And I kind of see the point to this. So for example, I've got 6 players hopefully playing Game Week 35. Game Week 31 anyway. So I've got 4 transfers, so I can get 10 out with no hits. I don't even know if I want to get 10 out, so maybe I'll get 8 out. And then I could spend 2 of those transfers on other players. So here's some questions on it. So Mufessa again asks, is targeting non-blankers from Game Week 31 a trap? Which non-blank 31 players should we be targeting? Pumpkinhead mentioned Spurs. They're likely to blank then. So which are we getting there? Lots and lots of questions on Leicester assets. So who's 0-1? Is it worth getting Mahrez in now and then swapping him out Game Week 31 or benching him? And the same can be said, obviously, with Arsenal assets who, before Game Week 31, travel to our side, Brighton, and then have a home game against Watford that looks very good indeed. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of you have mentioned these players. So, Andy, I think you mentioned Mahrez and Eriksen. So it sounds like you are subscribing to this policy of ignoring a few blank and just looking at fixtures.
Yeah, looking at fixtures and knowing that I'm going to take hits at some point. So I kind of want to take them for the blank players as late as possible. I don't want to be lumbered with players that aren't going to score. And I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from those that kind of went Kane to Aguero. They saw a group of 4 fixtures where they thought there was going to be massive points. They got those points, and now they can take them out, maybe even for a hit because they've earned so many. So when I look at the kind of next block of 3, I think Leicester. I don't have the fixtures written in front of me, but I think Leicester's got 2. I think it's Bournemouth at home and Stoke at home. And
they got Stoke at home, Bournemouth at home, West Brom away. It's plummier than a plum tree.
About as good as it gets, yeah. And then you got Spurs as well while you're there. Spurs, I think, have got Crystal Palace away.
Crystal Palace away, Huddersfield at home, Bournemouth away. It's even plummier than a couple of plum trees. That's a plum orchard.
So I look at that. I've got Sanchez and Lingard sitting in my team, and that can be swapped for free to Mahrez and Eriksen. So I'm looking at doing that.
That's such a good move.
Yeah, and just hoping that they score enough points over the next 3 that if I then need to take them out for a hit later on, then I've already earned the points to do it. And when I look at the block of 4 fixtures for most of the blank players, none of them really, apart from Liverpool, obviously, but that's a no-brainer. They don't really have a set of 4 which are really good and have players that I want to bring in. So I'm kind of putting them off for a bit longer. Van Dijk is probably the only exception, and I might get Wilson because I've got Ayew right now, and I'm not too sure about whether he's going to keep his place. So I'm a bit like, I've got 6 blank players now, but one of them is Peter Crouch, so he doesn't count. which is why I'm looking at Wilson. So yeah, I'm looking at Mahrez and Eriksen. I think their fixtures are too good to ignore, and I don't want to get caught in that trap where I bring in Shaqiri and Walcott, who could do well for their price, but I just think Mahrez and Eriksen, and I'd say maybe not for the overall game, but maybe for mini leagues and stuff, they're probably differentials at the moment. I wouldn't say if I go and look at my league, mini leagues now, I bet not many people have got them in their team.
Well, Eriksen's 14% ownership and Mahrez is 6%. So you've immediately, even for overall rank, you've immediately got two good players.
And I think Mahrez has come back and actually done probably a little better than I expected. I thought maybe he'd go into sulk mode, but I guess he's probably trying to get a transfer away in the summer at this point. Maybe when there's a bit more time for someone to come in and get him. So, yeah, I think those two stand out. I mean, you could look at defenders. I mean, I'd love a Spurs defender as well, but the one I want is Davis, and I'm just too worried about rotation. So then it kind of defaults to Vertonghen, and not so keen on him. So I'm really just looking at those two midfielders. And if I had a forward spot, if I didn't have a midfield spot, then I'd definitely look at Vardy as he scored 5 in a row, I think. Mark got him in at just the right time. So yeah, look at Vardy instead of Mahrez, maybe.
Yeah, and how about you, Az?
Well, I think Andy's actually in quite a lucky position with Sanchez, although he might not think it, because although he hasn't got many points from him in the last few weeks, to me, getting rid of him now is a very sensible move. And there are these players who they might not have a game in 31, but Tottenham and Leicester's fixtures are just incredible. Whereas John C and I, you have De Bruyne and I have Hazard, and they're both in good form. They've both got rotten fixtures, but they're both in good form. So I don't know about you, but I'm reluctant to sell Hazard, and I imagine you're reluctant to sell De Bruyne. I mentioned earlier that I'm bringing Van Dijk in, and that just seems like a sensible. If you've got an Alonso or an Otamendi, that move to Van Dijk just seems a really easy move. The difficult decision is whether to move on De Bruyne or Hazard for Eriksen, I think, because I think Eriksen, the next 4 games are just amazing. Crystal Palace away, Huddersfield at home, Bournemouth away, and then potentially Newcastle at home. It's a great run, and 40% ownership is a good differential. So that's the decision I'm finding myself with this week, and the blank does put me off a bit, which is a shame because I think it's too far away to worry about it that much.
Yeah, I'm in that same position, and you mentioned it as well. So the player that would have to make way for the best ones to get in, Mahrez and Eriksen, would have to be KDB. And do I really want to be getting rid of him? Yes, he's got Arsenal away, but it looks like there's goals in that. So looking at it, so City have got 29 goals away. So that's second only to Liverpool in terms of away goals. And they've also last kept a clean sheet back in 21 away, and that was against Crystal Palace. So that indicates they're going to concede and they're going to score. And yeah, same with Arsenal. They've done really well at home. They've scored 36 times. That's second only to City in terms of home goals. And over their last 4 home matches, they've actually failed to keep a clean sheet, and they shipped 7 goals there. So I think there's going to be goals there. So do I want to be getting rid of KDB then? Especially after they've had they haven't had great results recently, so they're going to need to really show the opposition what they're made of. And then they're home to Chelsea. So yes, it's Chelsea, but we've seen I've just described, 50 goals. That's 14 more than the next best home side. So do I want to be getting rid of KDB for a really important home game? And then there's Stoke away. So yes, it's home. It's Stoke. So, and that's when I look at it. So is Eriksen or Mahrez better than KDB for those? Maybe, but not definitely.
Trouble is, he just hasn't been like as explosive as he has been in previous seasons. So you're not, if you were making the move to someone like Hazard, who had great fixture or someone, then I'd say it's an easy move. But Eriksen, he could easily get 2 points in a couple of games because you just have to.
As you said, Andy, there will be other people who are in that position where they've got a midfielder, very expensive midfielder they don't want. It's an easy move, and it's a no-brainer. The moves Andy's just talked about. So for me, the players I want to get rid of, they're in the cheaper slots. So I've got Calvert-Lewin still somehow. I need to get rid of him. So I'm actually the best replacements in that general price range happen to be game week 31 blankers. It's Wilson and it's Nias. So they're the two I'm kind of looking at anyway. I've got Otamendi. I obviously don't want to keep him. I can't see many clean sheets there. And who's the best? Well, it's another game week 31 player. So for me, it just so happens that the cheaper players that I want to get rid of, the best replacements really happen to play in game week 31, which is, I guess, ideal. but there's not really. I don't really want. I've had Leicester defenders before. They're a chance in it with getting clean sheets. You're just not convinced of it, really. And there's no other cheap players at say Spurs, for example, that I want to get in, or indeed Leicester. So, yeah, I think we're all in different positions here, really. But if I had a blank slate now and someone says, please recommend some players that weren't playing Game Week 31, well, Andy's nailed it. Mahrez or Eriksen, really.
I think the one slight thing I've got in the back of my head about Eriksen as well is if, and it's a massive if, they lose that game against Rochdale, then I've already got someone in who's not going to blank as well. So I feel like I'm either kind of risking that he gets good points in 3, or even better, I get a fixture in the 4th as well. Worst comes to the worst, I'll just get rid of him. So that's in the back of my mind for kind of getting another Spurs player in as well.
One team we're forgetting as well is Arsenal. So they've got the home fixture against City, which I think there's goals in that, because City defensively, they're leaking a lot of goals, especially if they play Stones, who I'm not going to go on a rant about, but don't particularly like, as some of you might know. But yeah, I think like Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, even someone like Ramsey, you bring them in. They've got Man City, and then they've got Brighton, and then I can't remember who the other team is. They've got another quite easy game. So, I think if you're looking to make up some ground, I think Aubameyang particularly is a great option. Someone that I was considering, but I'm put off because he hasn't got the game. So if you're a bit braver than me, then I'd say he's a good pick.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you're right there. We've had a few questions, specifically on these defensive issues. So we've mentioned a few of these players like Alonso and Otamendi, and there's Jones as well. So it doesn't seem a good time for premium defenders at the moment, and it certainly doesn't in Game Week 28. So yeah, Pumpkinhead asks, what do we do with some urgent defensive issues? Otamendi, rotation threat. Suddenly there's lots of centre-backs there. And lack of clean sheets, that's the main reason to get rid. Alonso, very poor fixtures. He is back, but he also now has someone who can fill in for him, which didn't happen before. And Jones, possibly injury. He looks like he's injured for the Champions League game this week, and therefore could be at the weekend as well. So yeah, I mean, I know you've got some of those assets, but whether you've got them or not, would you recommend ditching them? Is it time to get rid, play the fixtures, and get rid of these heavyweights at the back?
So I've got 2 of them. For Otamendi, he hasn't actually been rotated yet, has he, in the league? I don't think.
No. Well, no, it's just in the
he's the only one that can defend.
He's the only one who can defend.
I've got rid of Otamendi. Luckily, I got rid of him before I think the last 3 games they conceded in. I'd get rid of him if you think they're not going to keep clean sheets. Which, to be fair, the fixtures are probably not great for that. I don't know if he is going to get rotated though. Centre backs don't tend to get rotated that often. And he's been the key there all season. I said it last time we spoke about it. I just don't think he's getting rotated. Now, Alonso, I said last week about his fixtures, and suddenly, I know he got injured, but suddenly everyone's tune has changed about him. If Mark was here, he'd be saying, I think he's going to keep. I think I read his article. I'm looking at getting rid of him if I need the money, basically. Because I think, like I said last week, if you're going to get rid of Alonso, then these are the fixtures to do it for. But it is worth noting that he's got a pretty good record against the top 6 in terms of either getting attacking returns or clean sheets. Again, another one who I'm not convinced he is going to get rotated that much, if at all. But yeah, I think if I need the money...
You've got Jones as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got Jones too. That's a bit of an annoying one. I just wonder if he's been saved for the league again. I know there was talk about a bust-up with Mourinho, but I'm not convinced about that. I still think he's first choice. Bailly's back, which is a good thing for Jones, I think, if he can come back performing. But again, Jones doesn't really have great fixtures, and he's blanking as well. So I can see reasons for getting rid of all of them. Obviously, the thing with Man United is they're so well-owned, their defenders. If he does continue playing and we do get clean sheets, then you're looking at possible red arrows. But yeah, Alonso or Jones may go for me this week for Van Dijk, because we've already discussed, Van Dijk is not just someone who doesn't blank. He's someone who is probably got good value over the next 4. So yeah, I'm looking at getting rid of possibly all of them at some point soon. I just think Alonso is a risk. As soon as you get rid of Alonso, watching Chelsea becomes a lot harder. That's the problem with him.
Now I know, as you have feelings of great love for Alonso.
do.
And in fact, any wing back, you're not that picky. Any wing back will do you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree. I don't really agree with Andy's who he wants to get rid of, because I think Otamendi out of that lot to me is the first priority to get rid. I originally bought him in because I thought he did have an amazing goal threat. I thought every De Bruyne set piece, he could potentially be on the end of. His goals have just dried up. He's not scoring, and they're conceding too many goals for an expensive defender. And there's the risk that he's going to be benched. So to me, they're three things which I don't really want to pay for in a $6 million defender. I want someone who's rotation free, has good fixtures, is a goal threat, and he's not ticking any of those boxes. So he's the one for me that's going to leave for Van Dijk, and I'm actually really happy to keep Alonso because this question I think on the site has been asked a lot. People asking who to sell out of Alonso and Otamendi, and we had the article on it. Otamendi's just Alonso's just capable of scoring against anyone. He just needs a free kick. It's like Mark said. He just needs a free kick outside the area, and suddenly he's standing over it, and you've sold him, and you're panicked because you think he's going to hit it into the top corner. I don't get that. Don't get that fear with Otamendi. So I think he's the one. He's the one to go, and you just hope that Jones and Mourinho, go out for a drink and patch up their differences, and he starts.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no reason to ditch Alonso. I don't necessarily need the money, and as you said, he's the punisher. Alonso is. He will, if I get rid of him. I mean, I've got him in, and he's punished me by not doing anything and not turning up. I get rid of him, he will go on one of his 2-goal sprees. And I also agree. Manchester United away. Manchester United now. I look at them and I look for a defender who are playing Manchester United. I now think that's a good fixture for a defender. Pretty much any defender now. I mean, after seeing that Newcastle game, I know obviously Sanchez isn't going to miss it on a plate that every game, but nevertheless, I just think that's quite a good fixture for Alonso. City away, attacking returns. He's got attacking returns against City before, and then Crystal Palace at home. That's fantastic. So Alonso's not a priority, definitely. Otamendi, yeah, he's the one that's going to go for Van Dijk. I don't think I'm going to make that move this week because I'm okay with playing Otamendi, and I've got defensive cover as well, whereas I don't have perhaps attacking cover this week, so it's not really a priority for me. But I think you're right. I think Otamendi's the one there. So we've reached the time where we can look ahead to next game week. So more pressing concerns. Game week 28. So yeah, do you want to? I think we should have a look at clean sheets first. So Az, do you want to go first for these?
Yeah, so I did a bit of research for this, which I'm sure you'll be use some tables on the site. So I'll just say it's Liverpool who I'm going to go for. As you mentioned earlier, they're not conceding many chances. They've only conceded 19 inside the box in the last 4 weeks. Newcastle are the bottom of that with 45 in the box. So they're doing really well, and they've got Van Dijk to strengthen them. So yeah, and they're against West Ham, who are actually quite not doing that great attacking wise, with 21 attempts in the last 4, compared to someone like City who's got 50. So I think Liverpool with Van Dijk, great option for a clean sheet this week.
That's good. And you Andy?
Yeah, I don't know. I find it tough actually to pick one this week, so I'm going to go maybe a bit out there. Just because I really want Shane Duffy to get me some points. I'm going to go for a Brighton clean sheet. And Swansea not scoring too many goals, but I know they're in kind of that period at the moment where they're fighting for relegation, and it does look like the team's fighting for the manager and for their place in the league, etc. But yeah, I'm just going to go for Brighton, and I'm going to hope that Shane Duffy finally gets me a clean sheet and a goal that I've been waiting for what feels like the whole season.
Yes, no, I'm going to be fielding Shane Duffy this week, and yes, that was to be my one, but I'm going to go for my next choice, which is Burnley. I think Burnley at home. I think their defenders coming back. Ward hopefully should be back, should be playing. Southampton looking really unimpressive. They seem to be continuing this amazing tactic of having a striker isolated somewhere in the heart of Hampshire, and then they're about 30 miles, all the midfielder about 30 miles away from him, and they're trying to get him to score. They are scoring some goals, and they're relying a lot on set pieces from Ward-Prowse, but I think Burnley can handle a bit of Ward-Prowse. Famous last words there. So yeah, on to Fanciana risks. Andy, got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, same game basically. I looked at the last 2 weeks, and it was Gross had 8 chances created, only behind De Bruyne, and 7 goal attempts, only behind Sanchez. And because I've given him so much stick in the past, I thought I'd go for him against Swansea. Again, I know Swansea are looking a bit resilient right now, but I still think that's a good game for Brighton. So, yeah, Gross for me.
And Az?
Yeah, so a Brighton player as well. He scored in the cup. I've researched how to pronounce his name, and I believe it's Locadia. So probably get stated for that. But yeah, he is so full of confidence. I imagine John, you saw his press conference when he signed, and he was talking about, how he's going to come in, he's going to score loads of goals, he's going to keep Brighton up and all this. And then he scored in his debut in the cup. He's got a good game. I think he'll get a start over Murray, because I think he was bought, to start. So yeah, I think he's a good option.
Yeah, I think they're both great choices. And the thing Houghton was saying about Locadia is that he's very he's mobile. They don't really have a mobile striker, and he does look it as well. He was moving all over the place, so he offers them something a bit new. I think they're kind of getting used to him as well. I think Gross is going to get some assists there. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at someone who also scored in the last round of the cup, and in fact, he scored arguably the goal of the cup, Rondon. Now I've gone for him because he keeps popping up on my goals imminent table. What he does is he sneaks up, he hangs around for a couple of months, scores a couple of goals, and then he pops off again, and then repeat the rest of the season. And then somehow he gets his 8 or 9 goals a season. And yeah, he's right up there really. So he's had 9 shots in the box in the last 4. It's only De Bruyne who's really ahead of him in terms of the expected goals there. Yeah, I think Rondon's a good choice there. So yeah, how about plans for game week 28 then? So I'll come to you as for this. What any transfers and your captaincy?
So again, I think Lingard is going to avoid the chop. And I know. I mean, I need to get rid of him, but I was thinking about doing. I was considering briefly doing Alonso to Robertson and then Lingard to Walcott. I was originally considering doing that. And then I thought, actually, I just don't want to lose Alonso. So it has to be Otamendi that goes. So I could do Otamendi to Robertson, but then I thought, well, I want Van Dijk. So I think it's just going to be Otamendi to Van Dijk. And then instead of getting Walcott, I'm going to go for Shaqiri a bit further on down the line. I think Otamendi to Van Dijk, I just think that's such a good transfer. And I just can't not do it. So yeah, that's my move. Captain Salah.
Okay. And we got Mark back.
We've got Mark back.
Yeah, I explained. It was a question of priorities. So I said, don't unpack your bags. They, just I think, no, not really. No, it's fine. Just going to give me the last 5 minutes before. I heard you were saying goodbye and getting to the end, so I thought I'd nip in right at the end. What were you doing? Transfers, captains?
So we're looking at we're on to looking at game 28. Okay. Looking at captain transfers.
I'll go through my transfers first. Yeah, I mean, just echoing what Az was saying, Van Dijk for Otamendi. Looks so simple, doesn't it? I don't think I can turn that one down. Whether I do Lingard to Walcott is the other one I'm looking at. Lingard, surely, I don't want to get Az started on Lingard, but surely it's time to get rid. I don't even know if he's going to start against Chelsea, which is why I'm thinking about doing it.
Benching him.
Yeah, I mean, I could bench him. This is it. The other option I got is I could do Colin Quanar to Wilson, but I'd be getting rid of Quanar, who could play in 31. So I don't know if that's a good move, but I don't know. I'm weighing it up. I'm probably going to do Van Dijk to Otamendi Van Dijk straight away or very soon, and then leave the last one to Saturday morning and see how I feel about it. I don't know. I quite fancy Walcott at Watford, though. To be honest, I know on paper it's an away game and Everton haven't been impressed, but Watford are pretty leaky at Vicarage Road, and if they're going to hit them on the break, it's going to be Walcott, I think. So I don't not down on Walcott too much. I quite fancy him, so I might well do that just to get that one done. So that's me on the transfers anyway.
Okay, and how about you, Andy?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much going to do Sanchez and Lingard to Eriksen and Mahrez, I think, and just go for those fixtures. They seem like no-brainer transfers. And then for bonus transfers after that, because I've got 2 frees, I really want Van Dijk. My cheap defenders have actually got the fixtures where I could almost bench Alonso and Jones this week and not have to worry about them. But I'm tempted to swap one of them out, or probably Jones for Van Dijk. But swapping out Alonso would give me the money for Wilson as well to replace Crouch. So I'm definitely going to do the Sanchez and Lingard moves to Mahrez and Eriksen, and then potentially going to get Van Dijk in for a hit. And I don't feel so bad about it because I'm kind of preparing for the blanks. And like I said,
exciting for you, Andy.
I know.
It's big moves, this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a way to get Mahrez just for Lingard if I swap out Alonso to Van Dijk, and I get to keep Sanchez as well, which has crossed my mind. But then I think, what am I keeping them for? Yeah, I just don't know. We're going to park the bus against Chelsea and Liverpool probably, and then it's a blank. So, yeah, that's probably my moves. Mahrez and Eriksen, bit exciting for me. Yeah, you're right.
And who are you captaining?
Salah, I think.
Salah.
But the goalkeeper news at Crystal Palace, if that happens, makes Kane a bit more appealing. But I think Salah's got the home game, and like we discussed many times, he always gets points. Kane can definitely obviously get them too, but seems to blank a little bit more often. So Salah for me.
Yeah, Mark, did you give us your captaincy?
I didn't. I mean, I kind of got to play safe with Salah, but hearing that news about Hennessy, that is confirmed. Yeah, I mean, Kane is so in my thoughts again. Do I dare do it though? I just don't know if I can risk it. And
I'll be amazed if you didn't go for Kane.
Yeah, he's cost you so many points though.
I really want to give him a go because I know everyone's going to lump on Salah. But at the same time, I know that fixture at home to West Ham, it looks so inviting for Salah, doesn't it? And if you fail with Salah, a lot of the people around me, a lot of my rivals are also going to do the same. So I've got to look at to see if I've got enough differentials if I captain Salah. I always like to have one or two things different to everybody else if I'm going to go with the same captain as everybody else. And maybe if I keep faith in Hazard and Alonso, maybe I've got that because I think a lot of people are getting rid of those two or don't have them. So I probably will stick with Salah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to captain Salah because I have done for
well,
and he has never let me down.
Cool.
Even when he let me down and missed a penalty ages ago, he still managed to come in with some points. I'm looking transfer-wise. I'm looking at my weakest links. Otamendi, believe it or not, is not my weakest link. Calvert-Lewin is because he doesn't play. The setup at Everton with the striker, it looks like Tosin is going to be benched until Sam Allardyce feels that they are safe, which will be soon, presumably, in the 2 or 3 game weeks. And he will then throw him into that. So he's playing Niasse, is his main striker at the moment. So Niasse is good to go for the next 2 or 3 at least. And that means Calvert-Lewin is just going to get, if they're up, he's going to get 10, 20 minutes at the end. If they're not, he ain't going to get any minutes. So he's got to go. I can afford Wilson. So for me, that looks great because otherwise I'll be playing Mulajevic, who has obviously done me well. But I, as a hardened fan of his, do not believe he's going to get a penalty every single week. So I think I need to be benching him for a little while. And I think Wilson looks quite good. He can score against anyone.
I'm playing him this week. I really hope he scores.
I think Wilson looks good. But I'm playing close. I'm listening closely to the press conference there. Eddie Howe is usually quite forthcoming with news. They're away at the moment, kind of warm weather training kind of thing. No late night taxi rides kind of thing. This is actually hard work training. And that looks good. That tends to help players, obviously, keeps them fitter as well. But I'm just keeping an ear out for Defoe. If Defoe's coming back, then there's an option there.
Yeah, I don't see it though. I think Wilson's all right. I think Howe likes him, doesn't he? When he's fit, he plays him. I think. Yeah,
I just don't think it's more case of putting Defoe if they're not scoring and then getting Defoe on the 60th minute kind of thing, or 59th minute, annoyingly. So yeah, that's my move. So, but obviously it's all going to depend on press conferences and things. But I think that's I'm hopefully doing what most people should do. Really is look at their kind of weakest links really. And what they can get in for there.
Well, I'm certainly doing that by getting rid of Otamendi and Lingard at the moment, aren't I? So, yeah, they kind of scream out, don't they? That's the thing. And I think when the transfers are that obvious, I should do it. But the only thing, I do fancy Mahrez. I've got Vardy already, but I do fancy it. I look at it and think, should I get rid of Hazard as well? Because Hazard, I've said before, is such a player. He's difficult because when you own him, and then he produces every now and then. But he's such a lovely player to watch. And I watched him tonight, and again, he looked dangerous. And everything kind of, I mean, Willian now is a factor. But I still look at those two fixtures and think he could still do something at United and City. So I kind of tempted to hold on to him.
Play with a striker.
Yeah, he's so much better with Giroud there, isn't he? And I think that's going to be the case in those 2 games as well. So I kind of, even though I want Mahrez and it looks sensible to do Hazard to Mane or Hazard to Mahrez now, I may well hold him. That's a dilemma I've got anyway.
I think if you're, for people in your situation who haven't got Firmino and they can get Mane in, looking at the fixtures now, that looks like a really good move, potentially. I mean, I'm still a little wary of Mane at the moment because he has been a bit hit and miss. And obviously I've got Firmino, so it's kind of, I could do. I just feel a Liverpool triple up, but definitely your position. Yeah, that would be a serious consideration.
Well, I'm definitely going to do Hazard to Mane in game week 31. It's just whether or not, like you said, I know he's got the hat trick, but I still think there's still 3 games to go before we get to game week 31. And the Mane we got now, is that what we're going to have in 4 game weeks time? I don't know.
Yeah, you can have a good look at him. I think we were discussing earlier while you were away about similar with myself and Az with KDB. Similar to with your thing with Hazard, is that do you really want to get rid of him? Yes, some fixtures away, but then you look at him, and then you look at the PFA Player of the Year in waiting, and it's just really, can anyone compete? So for the moment, it's not a priority to get rid of KDB.
Yeah, it's hard when you get players like this, and not so much in Andy's case with Sanchez, because I don't think he's done enough yet to really wow us and go, oh. Whereas KDB and Hazard, in our case, it's difficult to let them go because they can hurt you against anyone in any circumstance. So, with Hazard, he's on penalties, and that, even he can play badly and get a penalty. So I don't know. I'll probably have to hold fire. If I was more convinced on Mane, I might do it. And because I got Vardy, I don't need Mahrez perhaps, but we'll see. Might pay for that.
Well. Yeah, it was good to get our thoughts game week 28. But more importantly, I think a lot of people wanted to hear what we were saying about game week 31 and beyond, really. So good luck everyone for those moves, whether you haven't got chips or not. And and I think there's a lot of planning to go ahead. There's a lot of big spreadsheets to put up on walls and things. And so hopefully we've helped out a little bit. But in the meantime, until next time, it's a good night from me.
That's good night for me.
Good night.
Good night.